So let's talk about Sony. Sony, Sony. What are we going to do with these guys, man? I know they did a lot of good for the world of film. You know, they gave us such instant classics like the Grown Ups franchise and Eli Roth's Thanksgiving and the Goosebumps franchise. Who could forget those? And of course, Ghostbusters. I mean, not that one. There we go. But, as we all know, they also gave us Spider-Man. And Spider-Man again. And then one more time. And then two more times after that.
And I will do it for you.
But it's a different guy. It's the same. It's still Peter Parker. He's still Spider-Man. But it just looks different. And then two more times after that. It's not Peter Parker, but Peter Parker is in it, and so like a bunch of other spider people, and it's animated. That's pretty cool too. And I guess three more times after that. But that's a whole rights issue that we don't really have time to get into. The point is, they love Spider-Man, which is great because we love Spider-Man. He's awesome. And they've done a pretty...
You're a fraud, Spider-Man!
Okay-ish job with the character over the years, and have even made multiple attempts to build this one character they managed to get from Marvel all those years ago into a whole cinematic universe. Attempted is the operative word there. Also multiple. And they ended up giving us such instant classics like...
He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
Well, they gave us these movies, at least, right? They're there, and they exist, and we can watch them. Now, they want to do what their cousins over at the MCU did all those years ago, and assemble the Sinister Six. That is, of course, if the rumors are actually to be believed, then it's not just another in a long string of projects that they said they were going to do, but then at the last minute we're like, nah, we're good off that. By the way, I'm doing a longer video on that. Stay tuned. For right now, let's talk about the Sinister Six. It was announced recently that Sony seeks to combine all of their major properties, all their characters, into a potential Sinister Six film. Now, there's not much we can really say about it because we don't know anything outside of the fact that this might happen, but also probably not. But it is interesting to think about. I mean, the Sinister Six is a project that Sony has held us at gunpoint with making for almost a decade at this point, and doing it would finally liberate us and free us from this hell and misery of just constantly waiting. It's a pretty goofy idea, but between you, me, and the screen, I'm actually kind of seated for it.
And everybody know the story of David and Goliath, but this is bigger than triumph. This is for the warrior, this is for you and I, this is for you for...
Which I know is incredibly silly. The Sonyverse, or the Venomverse, or the Spum universe, whatever you want to call it, is a mixed bag. Movies of varying quality, but they still had some hits. Actually, I think it's more accurate to say they've had a hit, and then a miss, and then a miss, and then But the one thing I'll give Sony credit for is just how committed they are to the bit. I mean, think about it. A franchise of movies that feature Spider-Man villains, where Spider-Man is neither mentioned or even said to exist. Can you just imagine that? Like comic book spin-off projects just about the villains who fought the hero that everyone cares about and would rather see? Who would ever think that would... Regardless, I'm going to call Sony's bluff on this. The rumor has it that the Sinister Six film will feature the Vulture, still in the Sonyverse after being transported here at the end of No Way Home, which, if you'll allow me a brief tangent, still drives me up the goddamn wall. It makes no sense. The context of the spell used to transport people from other universes to the MCU was just that. It didn't take people from the MCU and bring them into other universes. Why would the Vulture leave this universe? That was not how the spell worked. It just doesn't make any... So the Vulture and Morbius, Venom, because, duh, Madam Web, her web connects them all, don't you know? And the newest member of the Venomverse, Kraven the Hunter. They're gonna come... Flip my notes here. Together to stop the symbiote god Null, who was introduced in Venom 3. So basically, Birdman, the Count, Crocodile Dundee, Professor X, and Venom teaming up and fighting God. You see what I mean about calling their bluff? I mean, the premise of the movie is just too insane to believe, especially with the characters that they're using, but God damn it, I hope they actually end up making this. I really do. I think that Sony maybe thinks that if they could succeed in even the smallest of ways in making this utterly incomprehensible and totally disconnected universe actually connect with this movie and get it to screen, in their eyes, this whole Sonyverse endeavor would have been worth it, which I still don't think it would ever come close to being. I mean, I always thought, and I think other people thought, that this whole Sonyverse thing was just another way to buy time until Daddy Feige and Daddy Iger come knocking on the door and say, hey, we want to buy Spider-Man back from you. Like, if they can build their own universe and make it successful, then the price of a purchase like that would go up all the way. The Sonyverse may be lacking in critical acclaim, but the total box office of the series is overall in the billions with a B. I know, right? A major media corporation sacrificing quality for increased profits? Unheard of. Also, it should be said, as is the case with most of the movies in this franchise, there is no word on whether or not Spider-Man will be a part of it. Again, every single movie in this universe has tried or failed at some point into bringing in some version of Spider-Man into the Sonyverse, and it never ended up panning out. Madam Web was maybe the closest, with a baby Peter Parker introduced in the third act, but that's another reason why I need this movie to come. Just going through my notes again. Out. I have to see how they will bring a Spider-Man into this universe. Is it going to be Tobey? Be Andrew? You can bet your ass it's not going to be Tom. The MCU is not letting go of that kid ever. But knowing Sony and their track record, though, what'll actually end up happening is there's going to be like a scene in the third act where the chips are down, everyone's beaten up, Vulture's wings are trashed, Morbius lies drained and thirsty for blood, and Kraven has been stabbed with one of his own knives and is bleeding out and barely holding on. Madam Web is not there somewhere. Honestly, I don't know what she would do in this kind of scenario. I mean, maybe she'll bring in the spider triplets, but they're not even a thing, right? That was a whole future or whatever. Venom is being held by Null, and he's about to rip the symbiote off from Eddie, but then a portal opens up, and in front of them steps out Miles Morales. But because it's Sony and they don't know what they're doing, it's not going to be a live-action Miles Morales. It, for some reason, would be a fully animated Miles Morales from the Spider-Verse films. And he's going to save the day, and they're going to ask him to join up. Hey, Spider-Man, you want to join the Sinister Six? We're bad guys, but we're not like villains. We're like bad guys, like we're cool bad. I know, it's stupid, it's silly, and wacky and dumb, and makes zero sense, but I would pay to see it. I will be seated there opening night. And so, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's only 5. There's only 5 members of the Sinister Six in the movie titled Sinister Six. There's only 5